Okay, let's get started. Today we are going to discuss about designing the advanced user interfaces in LabVIEW, and I'm Rafayel Ghasabyan, the CEO of Rafayel Solutions company, who is specialized in machinery. And of course we do a lot of custom user interfaces for our customers, and that's how we came up with the idea to share all the knowledge and whatever we do to the community and to all of you. Okay, today we'll discuss about the general UI, what's the good practices when creating the user interfaces. At the same time, the second portion of the presentation will be more sharing the specific tricks with the LabVIEW. What are the good things that we experience and we find out that we are using together when building LabVIEW applications. And that we will do showcasing some small videos. I would like to start with this, basically this kind of a note from Paul Rand. Paul Rand is a very recognized and famous, one of the first designers who connected the technology. He is the person who created the logos for many companies like IBM. He has took part in the creating like Apple logo, so on. So this is like how he defines what the design is. Going forward, we basically are going to cover all the principles shown in this pie chart, starting from user guidance, localization, consistency. These are the things basically that Rafayel Solutions is taking care when starting to design any user interface. So we'll go one by one through the presentation. Okay, so starting with the first one is the user familiarity. When talking about what does that mean, is we need to have a user interface that seems for our users familiar. Means like when they are already used to have the save button logo as a floppy disk, it's much better to use that rather than invent a new kind of an icon or something that is not familiar to our users. And that's the same with the close button. Many times you may notice, especially in LabVIEW development, people are putting their own close button and then disabling the main, this X button in the corner. And that's becoming more confusing and not having a very user-friendly interface. So we recommend more to use whatever is familiar to your users. And actually it depends on the application, because each application requires and already have some kind of standards for the user interfaces. For example, if your market is in the test, then mostly those people who are there for 20 years, they used to work not with the software applications, but more with the benchtop devices. And for them, the user interface, the more it is close to the benchtop, the interface of the benchtop device, the more it is familiar for them. So it's not only just talking about these icons or these things, but also the overall organization of the user interface. Going forward, I would like to discuss the consistency and predictability. This is basically, when, let's say you have a user interface where you are switching some tabs, and then on each tab you are showing different functionality. But overall the application, like each tab is talking about different things, but it need to reflect the consistency within the software. For example, in this here, like on the right corner, you can see this kind of a ribbon. Basically, that's taken from one of our applications where we have different like sub panels or like tabs switching, and then the buttons need to look similar. Otherwise, if you put different design for something that in behind it is working with the same way, it brings inconsistency and it's kind of surprising for the user. The other thing is that try to choose the icons for the buttons the way it he can predict what is inside, what functionality it should run. Let's say having alarms or having the analog outputs or whatever. And if the signal, if the icon is not enough self-explanatory, it's much better to put some text or some hints. And just going forward, yeah, okay, I will show later what I mean by saying putting hints and this text later. So basically the other aspect is to talk with the customer. To talk means, I don't mean yourself communicating as a developer, but like the software, how he communicates with the customer. That's about the various warnings and hints and like information that software is providing to customer and getting feedback from the customer. So it's of course very important to warn about the errors, but telling unknown error or like there is some error, it's the worst thing to tell to the customer, because what does that mean? It's much better to have some kind of a detailed information provided. And at the same time, it's not always good to all the time to start popping out all these dialog boxes. Depending on the application, sometimes it's better to limit the functionality of the software and thereby limit the number of warnings you will bring up. For example, here you can see that like an example of a calculator where we tried, like you can see it's disabled buttons, and depending on the situation we are all the time analyzing what's the current situation, what's the text that is being typed on the top side. And let's say when you open the open scope you have put, and it means that you need to close the scope. But it's not giving any warning with the dialog box, just there is some sign on the top. It means that you need to close. When you close, it disappears. And then all the time going gray and enabling the buttons. This way you are limiting all this information so that not to make nervous the user when he's working on the software. The other aspect is localization. Many times when talking about the user interface, people are not considering the localization as part of the user interface. But nowadays, as probably your companies and you are also entering international market and starting to sell the products not only in your local country but also in various other countries, it becomes very important for the target market to have the software in the local language. And it's not only the language, but also some kind of attitude to the specific market in different countries. And it depends on the equipment they are using. It depends on the factory rules, or let's say if it's factory automation or process control. So what we are doing, what we did, we are always trying to match to the language that our customers are speaking. And how it makes our life easy is that we use our own, like we developed some language support toolkit for LabVIEW. Basically, when you use this toolkit during the development, later on, every time to add new language is just translation. You just need to provide the environment to some operator. They enter all the words, and then the application automatically adds those. Everything gets changed. It's like including the menus, including all the, like almost everything that is possible to be there in LabVIEW. So using this kind of localization toolkits or yourself doing it, it's really important to have more user-friendly environment. Some characteristics like icons, menus, graphics, these are different things that are there on the GUI, especially if you have industrial GUI, like for some LabVIEW developed application. Several things to take into account, like it's much better to have visualized icons and like good pictures, and of course to pay attention on the design. I don't want to talk more on those general things which probably you all know, how to work on choosing colors, putting all this stuff together. One more thing about the menu part, it's not good practice to put all the menu items within single hierarchy, not hierarchy, but let's say like in the same column, because it makes much more difficult to understand, to find what you are looking for. it's preferable to have some kind of hierarchy, like here we have this export data, then you have name graph data or measurement data. This makes easy to find what you're looking for, rather than everything to have in one column. And then user guidance is the other part of what we discussed about the consistency and about the feedback. And the user guidance is when you guide your customer when he's already working on the application. That's the help assistance, that's the hints that are coming out, that's the, like here on the example in the downside, you can see this, from the right side, it's actually coming some help that is like, how to say, like floating screen that's opening depending what you are clicking, like description or setup. It's and then you can click that arrow in the bottom and just closes. So this way you minimize the space of the screen, and at the same time user can easily find what he is looking for. It's setup, it's description, or whatever is that. This screen is exactly the one that I wanted to show in the beginning on the slide where we were talking about the feedback, is when your icons are not so clear, what does that mean? Always put hints. Like you can see this rise time here. You can see some other things. So the visualization is good because in the beginning it will be difficult for the customer to figure out what does that mean. But later when they get used to your software, it's much simpler and much convenient for eye to see picturized, and they memorize that this is the rise time, this is this thing, rather than having all this text within the user interface. It makes a mess overall, especially when you have more than 50 buttons and different controls and indicators on the same screen. Although the resolution increases nowadays, but like it's not user friendly to put all this mess on the screen without pictures. Okay, so this is about the dialog boxes and status bars. Using, like you can see in the status bar, it's giving some kind of another hint and information depending where your mouse is located, where let's say you put it near to the graph. It gives some help, very short help in the status bar, because you know, like people, they don't like mostly what we do, like you buy some refrigerator, nobody opens the passport and reads how to use it. Mostly you just plug it in and you wait for it to run. So the same way people work with the software. So it's much better not to hide everything in the major main manual, which is like maybe 50 pages software, 50 pages documentation, but rather giving short hints for everything in the status bar. And limit the dialog boxes. Don't show like multiple dialog boxes coming one after another. This is just some application kind of a example showing about the navigation. It's always good to have up and back, like going front and back, some arrows, having this kind of, you can see this is the same, that's again from the LabVIEW perspective, that's a sub-panel working. And then on the right side you can see the navigation pane from where you can choose which window you want to open, which screen are you opening. And it's actually showing that at the moment it's active, the analog output, with just changing the color. Okay, so from now on we'll start the second part of our presentation, where we will together go through the couple of videos and we'll see whatever we discussed, like how it is done more practically in LabVIEW. Okay, so here you can see these 5 buttons: about, home, settings, and those different buttons. So basically in the video you can see how it is being customized. It's opening the type dev customization screen, and then every button in LabVIEW, actually in every application, not only LabVIEW, it has got different states for the button. It's the click state and when you are not clicking, and each one of them has also the hover, like when the mouse is over the button or it's not there. So here in this video, we are basically changing all these pictures. We are putting corresponding custom pictures for the corresponding state. After changing all the states, Okay, just let's wait for the video to come to the place when it's changing all the states. Okay, here we go. Yeah, and then putting some logo there, removing the text from there, and then having another picture. This is just another icon. Okay, and we're done. So now the same way we did, we can do for some other buttons, changing the fonts, colors. These are really, you can see like it doesn't take a very long time to customize it, and at the same time you do it only once. You can easily copy it, you can use it for some other purposes as well, and then just going forward, it's just saving there. This is the CTL. Probably, I think you are aware about how it is done. By the way, I didn't ask, just like I'm curious, there are so many people here. How many of you are actually LabVIEW developers? Can you just raise your hand? Okay, so from all these who raised the hand, are there anyone who are more specifically working on the user interface, like within your companies, you are UI developers for LabVIEW? Okay. Basically, it's very interesting, like how, because it depends on the companies. The bigger the company, probably they will start concentrating, having a person dedicated for the user interface. What we do, we have a person who is like dedicated for that, but at the same time, the same person is also LabVIEW developer, like not from early morning, late evening, just doing the UI. So, but more and more, yeah, by the way, this gets finished, you can see how all the buttons look like, and you can see it looks much beautiful compared to the original buttons. Yeah, and what I was talking is that the more we get into the various markets with LabVIEW developments, the more we require to have beautiful user interfaces. Because it's not just somewhere there's some industrial application that nobody cares about the user interface. Nowadays, for example, our company is developing a system which is going to the end user as a product design, like it's the final HMI screen, and then there it's really important so that the operator, those people who don't understand any LabVIEW, who don't understand even the application, they should be able easily navigate in the software. Okay, going forward, I would like to show another short video. Okay, here we are talking about the splitters. Splitters are there in LabVIEW for quite some time, and why I wanted to show this is because you can notice like how when you scale the user interface, it's making all the buttons like look really ugly, and especially if you use some pictures on them. And so like scaling the screen with LabVIEW application, it's not so easy, or you need to take care for that. So splitters are one of the methods that we started to use. Here we are putting two splitters, one horizontal and one vertical, and basically making this graph apart from the other parts of the user interface. And then we define that, okay, so the graph, we allow the graph part to be scaled, and we don't allow all these buttons to scale anyhow. So that will remain the same size. So now you can see how we're doing that. Okay, we put the second splitter. So we put it always off, which means that now if you run the software and then you try to, and we lock it. So now, I talk faster than the video runs. Okay, now check it out. Now only the graph part is being maximized. Just a simple trick so that not to waste your time every time changing the buttons, how they should look when the screen resolution is different and so on. Okay, going forward, the other one is about the key navigation. It's really recommended whenever you have an OK, cancel, or any buttons. People are used to, when they see a button, they want to click enter. So even if it is not navigated on the enter, always use the key navigation for the OK or cancel. Like cancel is almost always escape. So why don't you put the escape, you just connect, relate the escape key on the keyboard to the corresponding button. That's the simple way to do it in LabVIEW. Probably you are aware, or otherwise you can see how it can be done. That's it. Okay. Just a second. This is exactly the thing that doesn't run. Okay. So this is the example that I was showing in the presentation part. You can see the calculator and how it works. Basically, every time you're clicking the corresponding button, it's all the time enabling, disabling the buttons that you should not click. The other way to give the feedback to customer is like, you don't do all this stuff, just every time they click, it gets some dialog box telling, okay, in this situation you cannot use this formula, and so. It's much simpler and much user-friendly. Just a small demo, and you can see like how when they put the result they use in the formula. That's it. This is just about the cursors. This is not video, just showing the what kind of cursors you can use in your application and how to use them in LabVIEW. Now the most important. I think all of us are like LabVIEW developers, and probably as we do, you don't like to waste your time on all these kind of customizations and like sitting in front of a computer for 1 hour, what you were doing, just changing pictures for the buttons. So that makes the life much not interesting, let's say. So what we do, we use ready-made stuff, and we ourselves, when of course, when we started, there were not much in the market, this available, this ready-made stuff, so we start building them. And then you can now go to this UI community, the NI community, and in the UI Kits, there is a group in UI Kits. You can easily see there a lot of free stuff, and at the same time, you can check out the LabVIEW Tools network, where there are so many different kits already, I think more than 10, from which quite a majority were developed by our developers. These are different designs. I will show a couple of them. Just like the Harmony UI Controls Kit is in this color range. There is another one like this red and gray, which we call Scarlet. There are more here, like more Space UI Controls Kit for industrial applications. A very fancy one, like with a wooden interface, which probably, maybe if you are developing a menu for some restaurant with LabVIEW, then you can use this one. Or I don't know which application, just interesting one. The others, like these rainbow colors, very flat controls UI kit, and very similar to Windows style, Windows 10 style. Another one, this classic UI controls kit. And another good example, we are actually almost at the end of presentation. I just wanted to share with you an example of one of our softwares when we have it without any customization. This is the regular LabVIEW buttons. And then I click this button. This is how it looks now after you customize it. Much smooth and easy to find, with pictures, with all the different, everything is in the same place, by the way. We didn't change any placing. But imagine if you also have some UI which is in a mess, and then you change also the locations. Here we only change the pictures, and it gets like this. Okay, and another example, just the data logger application that we have there also in LabVIEW Tools Network. This is another one that you have seen throughout our presentation. Just a couple of screenshots. Another one, this is, by the way, this one, for example, you can see on the left hand, there is this TCP, UDP, these are different buttons. And actually this application is for university, for school. That's why it's done in this kind of a color range. And each button on the left hand, you can see like it's a paper. And when you click it, it's basically changing the state, like you press on the paper. It's just get smudged, or I don't know the English word, like wet. Crumpled. Okay, thank you very much. Squeezed. Another example, here is the one that we use these floating helping screens. When you click on this arrow, it gets back, and then you can see the whole screen. Otherwise, when you click, you can open either description or setup. And here we go. This is done. Thank you very much. And I will appreciate if you have any questions. I think we have another 3-4 minutes. Yeah. Okay. Start with you.
Where do the lovely hexagonal
We draw it from Photoshop. Our designer just draw it somewhere, or you can actually download. There are so many different pictures there. If you just click like I want user interface buttons, and
when you started doing it just came up.
no, at the end we did for one button, and then the same thing. I'm just assuming that like the same thing is done for the others. It doesn't come automatically. Yeah. Yes, please.
Excuse me. I was asked about splitters.
Okay.
I found they're very, very powerful, but very difficult to work with. And I noticed that maybe you can recommend some regions, more deep regions that there are very key and helpful. Some tips and tricks about what
Specifically for splitters, you mean?
for splitters. Otherwise, it's really difficult to get in and start to work with.
Okay, interesting. Basically, what I will do, I will actually I'm not the developer. I beg your pardon. I will ask our developers to figure out if they can make a small, like a recommendation list or a small document just for the splitters. Although, like we are not National Instruments, so what we do. And then, if you can share your contact details, we will send that to you.